In the heart of Angeles City, the Philippines, sex is for sale and girlfriends are for hire. Clubs like this one cater for the many foreign men who flock here each year.
This is Walking Street. This is actually the capital of sex tourism industry in Angeles City.
These sex tourists seek cheap thrills with no consequences. Instead, they've fathered tens of thousands of children and then abandoned them.
Hi, I'm Lester. I'm 20 years old.
My name is Cassandra and I'm 15 years old.
Hi, my name is Luis and I'm 17 years old.
Their mums worked the bars. Their dads were the clients.
I want to find out who my father is because it's a bit sad to live without a father.
Kapag nakikita ko sa sarili ko sa salamin, na-imagine ko yung mukha ng tatay ko dahil iniisip ko kung magkatulad din ba kami ng mukha.
But now these children raised in poverty and robbed of their identities can find out where they came from. In a trailblazing project, their DNA is being used to hunt down their missing dads.
If we can find the fathers of these children, it could be transformative.
And for the first time, Australian sex tourist fathers are finally being held to account.
The power of this technology where we're allowing children to find their fathers sends a very strong message to these predators. You thought you could get away with it, you can now be caught.
Jenilyn's is one crowded house, a single mum with 7 kids and 2 cats. She now works in a call centre, but Jenilyn used to be a bar girl or hostess, just as her mum was. Jenilyn's clients, or guests as she calls them, were mostly foreigners. Luis's dad was one of them. Luis is a teenager, the same age as she was when she became pregnant with him.
I feel bad for my mother because nobody supported her in that age. She had to work like that and do those jobs. I feel like she deserves every happiness in the world.
Now Luis has been DNA swabbed, there's a chance they'll both learn who his father actually is.
My hope is very slim, if he's still alive or not. I'm not saying that he might already be dead, but for me, at least it's a closure for Luis, because my dad is also an African-American that I never grew with. So the closure is 100% important on my part. But in Luis' part, I'm not so sure what he is looking for, but closure will be the best way. At least he won't die without knowing his father.
I want to find out who my father is because it's a bit sad to live without a father, and I feel like I want to see him in person and say hi to him.
Angeles, in the shadow of 2 brooding volcanoes, is just 2 hours' drive from Manila. Over the decades, 2 vast US bases at Clark Field and Subic nearby spawned a prolific sex tourism industry here. Bars served cheap beer and cheap sex. By the 1990s, Australians were well entrenched in the business, and the Aussie customers continued to arrive in droves. The City of Angels is now better known as Sin City. Unprotected sex costs extra, and sex workers can earn more in one night than in 2 weeks in a call centre. Abortion is illegal and sometimes lethal. There are estimated to be tens of thousands of biracial children, most condemned to a hand-to-mouth existence in the shanties of back alley Angeles. Jayden is 8 years old and loved by his mum, but there's no dad in his life. He was a sex tourist.
May nakilala ko isang apam. Yun na nga, nilala ko siya for 5 days, 3 days. Tapos yun, buntis ako. Tapos sinabi ko sa kanya na ganito, buntis ako. So sabi niya, hindi din siya naniwala na.
Judith says Jayden's dad was much older than her.
Habang buntis ako nun, trabaho pa rin ako nun. Hanggang 9 months, mga anak na ako nun, trabaho pa rin ako. Tapos palugit ako nun mga 3 weeks bago ako mga anak sa kanya. Yun. Sobrang hirap. Ayun. Paano, nakaraos naman kahit pa paano.
The years went by, and as Jayden moved from baby to boyhood, Judith continued to work at the bar.
Gusto ko lang naman sa kanya yung makapagtapos siya ng pag-aaral. Yun lang gusto ko sa kanya. Tapos paglaki niya, makahanap siya ng magandang trabaho.
Jayden says he wants to be a police officer when he grows up.
Salamat tulungan ng mga tao ng tulong. Saka mahuli ng mga kriminal.
Oh, it's raining. Six months earlier, a social worker turned up at Jayden's place to take a saliva sample. Maravik Panalawan is with Angeles Relief, the Australian agency behind the DNA project implementing it on the ground. Maravik has made it her mission to check on the welfare of the abandoned children and their mums. She can't hide her contempt for the foreign sex tourists.
They just using these women as a resources for their own lust, having just some fun. They are treating these Filipino workers as a doll. It's very inhumane. It's disgusting. They come here because the value of their money is huge. Even if they're only having a vacation here, having some fun, they can maximize the value of their money in peso when they come here. Not only that, sex workers here are not protected by the law or by the government, so they can do whatever they want. These sex workers are being paid for being a prostitute, being paid for the sex. They are not being paid to get pregnant and to raise these children.
"10,000 kilometres away, Australian lawyer Andrew McLeod is walking to work. A visiting professor with King's College London, he's acquired a niche interest in genetics. He realised DNA technology could reveal the abandoned children's true identities.
These sex tourists, they know they're creeps. They know what they're doing is wrong. They just thought they'd never get caught. And that's the power of what this DNA project is. It creates the fear of detection in the minds of past perpetrators, and when people see what this technology can do, we scare the bejesus out of future perpetrators.
6 years ago, DNA technology was used to track down a rapist and murderer who'd terrorised California in the 70s and 80s. The Golden State Killer, as he'd been dubbed, had evaded capture for decades. He was unmasked as Joseph James DeAngelo, a 72-year-old grandfather and former cop, thanks to DNA from a 40-year-old crime scene which had been uploaded to an Ancestry website. The killer's DNA matched that of several of DeAngelo's relatives. From there, it was just piecing together a family tree. In 2020, the Golden State Killer was convicted and sentenced to multiple life terms.
Mr. DeAngelo will spend the rest of his natural life and ultimately meet his death confined behind the walls of a state penitentiary.
The answer was and always was going to be in the DNA. We knew we could and should solve it using the most innovative DNA technology available at this time.
Professor Andrew McLeod had recently read a newspaper feature about the children of Filipino women abandoned by their foreign sex tourist fathers.
I thought to myself, if you could use this genetic genealogy technology to track crime scene DNA, imagine if a man had abused a woman overseas and she got pregnant and had a child. Could you use the DNA of that child to track the father? And then contact the father and see if he would be willing to give child support or things like this.
30 seconds lang to.
Maravic's DNA samples are sent off to a lab where their genomes are compared to a commercially available genetic database.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Relatives of each child will be flagged. Paternal family trees can then be built up with the help of some internet digging. Genealogists then get to work on those names. It's genetic triangulation, really, and here's how it works. If you go onto one of these Ancestry sites and you've done a DNA test, it'll reveal the closest DNA matches to you. From these names, you can start to figure out your family tree. It does depend on whether one of your relatives has also done a DNA test, and the closer that relative, the easier it is to trace your biological family. These sites also feature maps displaying your DNA's ancestral geography. This is an actual map of one of the Angeles City children with an Aussie father. The mum is in the Philippines, and then the Australian father's family, originally from Scotland and Ireland. Genetic genealogists or DNA detectives use the family trees they build up to identify likely candidates for the biological fathers. They then track them down using search engines, public records, and social media. Andrew McLeod, professor and dad hunter, makes regular trips to the Philippines to oversee the DNA project. Today, he's heading to Angeles. 10:30 a.m. and he drops in on Walking Street, where it's never too early for a beer. He wants us to glimpse the street culture.
Oh, you're Aussie as well? Yeah, how you going?
There's no shortage of fellow Aussies here.
And your missus is Filipino? Yeah. Oh, good one. Some men like to think transactional sex does not involve abuse. I disagree with them. So you sell callus and you sell Viagra, but you don't sell condoms?
The Philippines is one of the world's most Catholic countries. Contraception is rarely used here. Abortion's illegal, as is prostitution.
If you are a white man coming from a relatively wealthy country and you are manipulating a woman's poverty, even if she's overage, and even if she consensually engages in transactional sexual activity, can you honestly, hand on heart, say that's not partly abusive? You from Aussie as well? Yeah. Where are you from? Cairns. Ah, there's a bloke just down there. He was from Cairns too. Yeah.
The Angolese specialty for sex tourists is the girlfriend experience. Men can rent sex workers for a whole day, a week, or even 2.
Go to a bar.
Yeah.
And pay your bar fine, 4,000
Yep.
pesos.
Yep.
And you have for the whole day.
Yep.
And this beautiful girl.
Yeah.
I reckon they're the prettiest girls in the whole world, do you?
Yeah.
Some of the women harbour hopes that the girlfriend experience might turn into a real relationship.
But you got to get a girl that hasn't got children because it's very difficult.
Hey, where are you from?
Sydney.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm from Melbourne.
I won't hold that against you.
Yeah. There has always been a sex industry and there will always be a sex industry, and in many countries the sex industry is lawful and legitimate. So I'm not attacking the sex industry. I'm attacking the men who think they can impregnate someone and get away with it. I'm targeting the men who steal the identity of their own children. If you've abused a woman in a country like this and you've chosen not to wear a condom and you have deliberately impregnated a woman, you will be caught one day. The power of this technology where we're allowing children to find their fathers, but not just their fathers, their genetic families, including brothers and cousins. This sends a very strong message to these predators. You thought you could get away with it? You can now be caught. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow. It might be on your 80th birthday that someone comes knocking on your door. You might even die of old age. And the legacy of your family is when a child here in Philippines approaches one of your children in Australia or the UK and says, "Hi, I'm your brother," or "Hi, I'm your sister." And the family then realises you were an abuser.
After months of waiting for the results of the genealogical research, Maravik is visiting Luis. His mum hadn't held out much hope of the saliva swab taken 6 months ago yielding definite results. But Maravik's got good news for Luis.
Tao po, Jen. Thanks.
The genealogists have tracked down his dad.
Hello, kamusta?
Jenilyn and Luis are anxious to hear the result.
Yung swab niya, minatch sa mga database, sa mga DNA bank. At ito yung lumitaw. Ang na-confirm na tatay is si Arthur John Bolton Potter. Gusto niya tinatawag siyang si Harry Potter. Only son of Lionel Francis.
Luis is about to learn that his newfound father is a wealthy businessman from New Zealand, where he owns a beach resort. Harry Potter's in his mid-70s.
According to Facebook, he now lives in Pattaya, Thailand.
Yung sinabi niya na may mga business siya sa Thailand. Yes, ba't kamukha mo yun?
Na nakita mo tong picture na to.
Ganda. Kung masaya sila.
Ang pinakamaganda, gaya ng gusto niyang suportahan ka. Anong pakiramdam? Sabi niya, ito pa yung magandang balita kasi he would like to help you to apply a New Zealand citizenship. Tapos, makakapag-aral ka doon, makakapagtrabaho ko doon. In the future, pagka nag-decide ka,
Malaking bagay sa akin yun, na masisecure na si Luis. Pagkakataon niya na hindi na po-provide sa karamihan.
yung tatay mo, si Sir Harry, tapos yung half-brother mo, yung kapatid mo, si Andrew, Gusto nilang maka-video call ka.
Masaya naman ko na kaya speechless na ako. Nagugulat sa pangyayari.
Luis must now ready himself to speak to his father for the very first time in his life.
The father, you as father and son.
Maravik is also working with Margaret Simons, a Melbourne-based journalist.
I went to the Philippines in 2015 for the first time. I had heard that there were many children of Australian sex tourists who had been abandoned by their fathers and who were living in poverty, and I went there to research the story.
She wrote the newspaper feature which Andrew McLeod had read.
It got quite a large reader response, and many readers wanted to help. They said, how can I help? Can I sponsor a child? Can I save a girl from sex work?
This is where she was living when we found her.
Margaret set up the aid group Angolese Relief to provide financial support for the mums and the kids. They're showing Andrew the grim conditions in which they'd found one of the children. You don't see many Western women around here, but Margaret knows Walking Street. She's been coming here for almost a decade.
You got iced latte?
We don't have iced latte.
No, okay. Just cafe latte.
If I'm sitting in a restaurant on Walking Street in Anglo City, typically I will see a man 50, 60 with a woman in her early 20s, sometimes much younger than that, sometimes clearly underage as well, which is particularly distressing. The whole place really was set up for Westerners and Australians in particular. It is true that some of these women hope to marry a man and find a lover, but generally speaking, the women are in a particularly powerless position. The sex is certainly much cheaper, and for the men, it can be without consequences. They leave, they go home, they never have to deal with any consequences, including any child they may have fathered. Whereas if they fathered a child in the UK or America or Australia, they might be liable for paying child support.
The power dynamic, she says, is not in these women's favour.
If a man doesn't want to use a condom, there's really not much chance that they're going to be able to enforce that. Men will often pay more not to use a condom. Pregnancy might be seen as an occupational hazard, and indeed some of the women do get pregnant deliberately because they hope that that will mean that the man will stay in their lives, and that can be transformative.
Maxine was abandoned by her father 14 years ago. He was a regular visitor to the nightclubs of Angolese, where her mum was a sex worker. Maxine's DNA results have revealed that her father is a Queenslander in his late 50s. His social media profile shows him in hotel rooms, bars, pools, and fast food joints all over Angolese City. Maxine's in state care now and lives in a shelter. Her mum struggles with drug use. Maravik sees her often. Her Aussie father denied Maxine was his daughter and said he had no interest in helping. He refused to pay child support.
Gusto mo bang umalis dito sa Pilipinas?
Ayaw.
Bakit?
Gusto ko dito. 1/2, 1/4, 1/4, 1/2, disappear, appear, disappear, 1/2.
May pingot
Again.
So, ano yung gusto mong maging? Anong pangarap mo? Ano yung pangarap mo?
Model, flight attendant.
Ano pa?
That's all.
4 years ago, when Maxine was 11, Angeles Relief had to run to the rescue to prevent her being forced into the sex trade as well. If Maxine were to be granted Australian citizenship, her options could open up significantly. For the mothers of children born to these men, tracking down the fathers brings hope of financial support. For the children, it's about gaining a sense of identity and the life-changing opportunities foreign citizenship could offer. Maravik is on her way to Judith's place. It's results day for Jayden now.
Hello, Jayden. Kamusta?
There's been a DNA match, although it's not as clear-cut as it was with Luis.
Tingnan mo yung grade mo. Galing, ah.
At first, Jayden's hesitant.
Gwapo yun. Nakakabigil. Ayun, may babalita ako sa'yo, Jayden. Eh. Gusto mo bang malaman yung balita ko? Okay.
She tells him his father is one of 3 siblings, but the DNA result can't confirm which one it is.
Yung tatlong magkakapatid, taga Scotland, pero lumipat sila sa Australia.
Maravik then tells Judith that 2 of them had later moved to the Philippines. The genealogists had dug out pictures of them. Maravik shows them to Judith on her tablet.
Familiar?
Okay naman, tagal na kasi.
Parang kamukha niya eh. No? No?
Judith's really not too sure. The second brother, it turns out, is married to a Filipina and lives in Subic, a nearby town.
Ito yung picture nung kinasal sila. Ito yun. Pero iba kasi ito yun. Tingnan mo. Mas lalong iba yan.
Jayden says he wants to meet his dad. Judith asks to see the brothers' photographs again.
Hindi yung yan yung picture na yan, yung ganyan. Parang may nag-iisip kong ganyan, kaso hindi ko matandaan kung nasa ba ako nun o hindi pa.
There's a discussion about exactly what Jayden's father had looked like. And then she settles on it.
Nagis namin yan, tatlong kami babae.
Oh. It's natin. Ayan ang Jayden. Gusto mo makilala yan? Pwedeng tatay mo yan or uncle mo. Di ba? Pogi, no? Kamukha mo, no? Gwapo ba? Ha? Bye-bye na. Bye-bye.
Judith and Jayden have both given their blessing for Angeles Relief to make contact with the brothers.
Bye.
Jayden's dad, whichever one he is, won't have seen this coming.
Yan. Okay na.
Harry Potter hadn't seen it coming either, but he's embraced this unexpected news that he's fathered a son in the Philippines.
Hello.
Hi.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Luis is about to see his dad for the very first time.
Okay. Now, so the things we want to do, Lewis, I want to help you. Okay? I can see you now. You can see me?
Yes, I can see you clearly.
And you can see Andrew?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Andrew.
Andrew's the oldest of Luis's newly discovered half-siblings.
I'm sure at some stage we'd like to see Lewis come to New Zealand and meet his half-brothers. But first of all, we have to do a passport and get him to go to school. Okay? Do you want to go back to school or do you want to go to work?
Yes, I would like to go to school.
You want to go back to school?
Yes.
Okay, we'll help you financially to go back to school if that's something you want.
Thank you, thank you.
First, they need to obtain a birth certificate for Luis so he can start the process of applying for a New Zealand passport.
Okay, well, we'll send some money, make sure you've got some money to pay for these documents. Okay?
But Harry Potter has some worrying news for his son.
I've just had a bit of medical problems. I had a heart attack, and my heart only works at 20%. And so I'd like to see Lewis before I die. And also, I had a problem. I had a stroke, so I can't walk very well at the moment either.
This makes their need to meet in person soon all the more urgent. Harry wants Luis to come to Thailand as soon as he gets his New Zealand passport. They agree to all talk again soon.
Thank you very much for accepting Luis as one of your family without any problem.
Well, bye for now. You have a good day.
Same to you guys. Thank you, Andrew. Stay safe.
Okay,
Thank you. Bye.
Results are coming in now for other children too, with fathers from as far afield as North America and Europe, as well as more from Australia. Social media accounts suggest some may be living in Subic, another nearby red light destination. Maravik is on the case.
It's not only Angeles City who has a sex tourism industry, but also in Subic, it's also a hotspot of sex tourism.
One of the two brothers who could be Jaden's father had started messaging his mum, Judith. He denied he was the dad, but promised to help out financially anyway. Then he changed his mind. Maravik messages him to say she's in town, but there's no response. She marches determinedly from bar to bar, talking to the women, the afternoon drinkers, and security men, showing them photographs from her dad Hunter hit list.
Thank you very much.
Everyone is supportive of her mission to reunite the children with their fathers. Maravik shows the photos to the tricycle taxi drivers too. One of the fathers she was looking for is a regular around here, they say. These bar girls recognise one of the Aussie brothers, but from a while back. They all agree the picture Maravik shows them was definitely taken right here on this very beach.
When they saw the picture, they are familiar with, and they are also aware that the background of the picture is around here. So the girls even point out the mountain ranges.
These women all say they've seen the other brother roaming around the Subic bars just recently. Unprompted, they volunteer his name, the same name the genealogists have arrived at.
At the end of our conversation, they said that they are not familiar with the surname. They just know the first name, and they are 70-80% sure that it was him.
Tracking down dads requires slow, patient sleuthing. In the weeks ahead, Maravik and Judith, as well as Andrew and Margaret working from London and Melbourne, reach out to the Aussie brothers, trying to persuade them to take a DNA test. But relations turn from frosty to downright hostile with both men. Over in Thailand, Harry Potter has taken on the responsibility of being Luis's dad. The ageing businessman isn't in the best of health and wants to get Luis to New Zealand soon to give him a fresh start.
What is it that you want people to know?
Harry's agreed to speak with us on the condition that he'll only talk about Luis's future.
How did you react at first when you were told you had this son in the Philippines?
I was surprised, but yeah.
I was surprised. It was a surprise, of course. Yeah, but it's a fact, so let's deal with it. Can't hide from it, let's deal with it.
I know it was difficult to connect with him over video, but seeing Luis for the first time for you, how did that feel?
I just feel some empathy for him because, I mean, he lives in such difficult conditions, unbelievably difficult conditions. Definitely in the lowest 10% in the world.
He finished school at grade 6. I mean, he's just stuck there. I mean, there's just no future there.
We can improve his life dramatically.
So the object here is to get Louis a New Zealand passport.
Do you worry at all that there might be a bit of a culture shock for Luis, though, going from the Philippines, being in poverty conditions, into New Zealand?
Of course there's a culture shock.
And he'll need a lot of support with that.
We'll make sure that we've got a Filipino family for him to board with.
I don't want to have him. I want him to grow. That's what I want.
It is an unusual situation that you've found out the information that you have. What do you want people to know?
Well, if you can support a child and let them know who they are, it's very important for them. Very important.
It is important, and you can see that it means a lot to Luis.
Mm. Yeah, and that's what it's about. It's about Luis.
It obviously means a lot to you.
Harry Potter remains hopeful of seeing Luis in person soon. Thank you so much again.
No problem. My pleasure. Ciao.
That was unexpected for me in a way, only because I didn't expect Harry to get quite so emotional about this connection with Luis, his son. And you could tell it was quite genuine. It was absolutely genuine, and that came as a surprise for me. The recent months have been an emotional roller coaster for father and son.
I'm scared of my new life because this is very out of the ordinary, and I'm really not sure what's gonna come. I'm not sure if it's gonna be all good or there's some trouble that will occur when I'm there. When I first known about my other siblings and my dad, I'm very surprised and very happy because I have a lot of families now that could help me and I could help them when they're in need. The thing I'm most excited for is seeing my father in Thailand. So I'm going to miss my mom, definitely. Her and my siblings not being on my side makes me really sad. But I think this is a good idea for me to go to my father so I could find a better job and help them in another way.
There's a stigma attached to Luis's very existence. Even his grandfather was a sex tourist.
About my mother's past and the reason I was born, I don't really think about it too much, and I'm not gonna let the past define me. And even if other people in New Zealand judge me, I won't listen to them, and I won't let other people judge me about the past and my mother went through. I'm hoping that in New Zealand people are more understanding and more accepting when they find out about my past.
While things for Luis seem to be working out well, it's rarely the case. A world away from the tin-roofed shanties of Angeles City, but only 7 hours away by air, one of the brothers, who could be Jaden's father, has moved back to suburban Perth. We've tracked him down, know where he lives and works, but for legal reasons, we can't name him. We've compiled a detailed dossier on both these men, complete with photographs and information drawn from social media and public records. The brothers, one in Perth, the other still in Subic, are not on speaking terms, to put it mildly. Each of them is still pointing the finger at the other while refusing to take a test that would categorically confirm which of them is Jayden's father. They've both instructed Perth-based lawyers to fend off Jayden and Judith. Four Corners has contacted each of the brothers directly. We wanted to ask why they've declined to take this test. We said that for Jayden, knowing which one of them was his father could give him that all-important sense of who he was. We also raised the potentially life-changing impact that resolving this could have on Jayden's mental well-being and his future. One of the brothers rebuffed us through his lawyers. The other didn't respond at all. It's graduation day at the local high school. At 15, Maxine's completed her primary education. She's wearing a new dress and looking anxious. Andrew McLeod has flown in to witness her big moment, having just dropped her mother off at rehab again. He recently persuaded Maxine's father in Australia to pay $400 a month in child support. Faced with the DNA evidence, he's finally shouldered his responsibility.
When I started this work, I thought it was about child support orders, about identity and nationalities, but it's not. It's actually about the kids fulfilling their potential. It's about going to school, getting education, breaking the cycle of poverty, and being able to allow them to flower as individuals.
It's not just Maxine graduating today. Luis has been going back to school and has finished junior high. He's only 3 years behind now.
Our education program supervisor for kindergarten.
His proud mum arrives with his baby sister.
I now get really emotional when you see some of these kids go to school, get a graduation certificate, and how much more powerful it could be for so many more kids if only the fathers stepped up to the plate. What this DNA technology does, we know it works. It unlocks the ability for a child born into sexual abuse or sex slavery or transactional sex, born into shame and stigma in some communities, to unlock the other half of their identity, to empower them with the knowledge of that half of that identity, and then to guide them on what they do with that knowledge, ultimately to give them a better future.
The DNA project in Angeles has helped just a handful of children to track down their lost fathers. There are potentially tens of thousands of others out there who have no clue as to the identity of their foreign sex tourist fathers who dumped them.
I hate these fathers, you know. Why did they left these children? Well, in the first place, why did they allow these workers to be pregnant? Like, even if they want sex, sure, why not? This is the business. But then, you have the responsibility not to get those girls be pregnant. It's good that we have this DNA testing that somehow can find the father.
At the end of the day, it boils down to giving these children a sense of identity that, hey, I'm a normal kid. I have a father.